I've been gone 6 days. I did 2 days ago, post that Dad had finally escaped gravity. And today I really want to focus on those last 24 hours. They were amazing and horrifying and fascinating and revelatory, and a privilege to be able to witness, and terrifying and excruciating, and something I don't ever want to do again, but something, again, I would never have I just had to be there. So after, sorry, it was gnats. After, I'm just losing track of time, that's why it's taking so long to think. He went into hospice on Monday, he died Saturday. So up through Friday midday, I'm in the chicken pen again. It was just pretty steady. We're able to keep him very calm, medicated, morphine and phenobarbital. He had a negative reaction to Ativan. Keep aware of that. If you have Lewy body syndrome, Ativan and Haldol can, not all the time, but do often have very negative reactions. With Lewy body syndrome, he was in high anxiety the first several hours of hospice. High anxiety looked like extremely rigid, palsy-like movements, moaning, a lot of moaning, hard breathing, very labored breathing, looked a lot like a woman in labor. I said the moaning, crying in tears. My mom, and so then it took phenobarbital and morphine to get him into a calm state, and then that's what they kept him in the rest of the time in different doses as they needed to between his breakthrough episodes, which means he would start to become agitated again and moan again, and then we had the discretion of being able to give him mini doses, MINI doses, in between the regularly scheduled doses, which is the privilege of hospice. Oh, that's great. That's my brilliant camera work, which is my camera propped up against an old solar, one of those lights you stick in your yard. This guy costs $3 at Walmart. That's my prop. So Friday midday, his breathing began to change in a way that the nurses actually noticed and the doctors. Up until that point, we'd had 5 or 6 come, on the texts. My mom saying she could see things that nobody else could see, which is probably true. They've been together 61 years. But we begged her to check with a nurse because we've had 4 or 5, this is it. And we're all just exhausted, nobody's sleeping. And we just said, please, maybe this time check that this is it with somebody who actually has the skill set for if this is it or not, if this is it. And, that went nowhere because, as she said, nobody knows your father like I know your father. And so when the emotions are involved, that's going nowhere. But Friday, things were changing, and we knew we couldn't leave her. And then it got to a point where they said, yeah, we think 24 hours. And what that means is that he starts cooling and or bluing around the mouth and extremities. And it's the body pulling its resources into the major organs, really not, those are already shutting down, but the heart and the lungs. The body's pulling everything into the center, which are the last things to go. And very primarily, the last 24 hours seem to start with the feet up. So in this case, Dad had a very high fever, high being around 103, and that's very typical in the end also, is a high fever. The temperatures are dysregulated, the body's homeostasis is way dysregulated, things are shutting down. But with the very high fever, you expect hot skin. So while he had very hot skin on his forehead, he had, sticky hands from the chickens, he had room temperature to cool feet. So say around, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I told Mom, I think this is significant, and the nurses, I'm an RN, and so the nurses agreed that that's cooling for him because the rest of his body's so hot. And we noticed that pattern continue through the night, and breathing become more ragged, shallow, sporadic. You'll notice lapses of breathing of 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 25 seconds, a full minute, and then shallow breathing again. These are called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, I believe, if I remember correctly. This is not my area. Women's body parts, vaginas, and cervixes, babies, labor, delivery was what I was trying to focus on. And it just, they're irregular breathing patterns that continue to worsen as the person is losing this side of the Earth's battle, which is really a victory. If you ask me, this place is not that great. So anyway, that continued, and we kept thinking he's stopping breathing, but he kept breathing till about 10 a.m. And I went home I had gone home to sleep. My husband had stayed most of the night, and then my sister and I could go home and sleep. Mom, of course, had not left since Monday, sleeping on the little plastic bed in those rooms, those pull-out things. Oh, I need to give the chickens these. Come here. Come here. Come here, come get these. Come here. You come get it? Anyway, I'm at home making a coffee, and my sister says, you really do need to come this time. And I just said, I don't even want to hear that. I don't want to hear the word come anymore. It means nothing to me now, in a bad sense or a good sense anymore. I've heard come now so many times. I mean, he's never going to go. And in fact, I had Blake my husband answer it, and that was the message he gave me. And I said this on the other video, and before I could get my coffee, he was gone. And so that's how that looked for 24 hours. Ending in just a last breath, my mom said it ended peacefully. It could have gone very badly, but Blessed Hospice had the medication there to keep him calm. So it was one final breath for him. Asides to this story are that my husband vasovagaled, which is a fainting spell, for several different reasons. At the foot of my dad's deathbed, at one point when he thought for sure he was leaving, it was one more of those, this is it. Thank God it wasn't it, and only because I'm a registered nurse did we avoid another emergency team coming in. 911 specifically is who the nurses wanted to call, so that was a zoo. There were a series of mishaps that we're actually already laughing about, and it's just been 2 days. But today is the day Dad was going to be cremated, so another day for declining signs once hospice starts, and other things I'd really like to come back and talk about. But I really also want to say, very primarily for people who are dealing with this anticipatory grief that's been happening since you got a terminal illness for someone you love, is that a very major feeling I have right now is freedom. I feel freedom for Dad, and I feel freedom for the rest of us, even my mom, who will grieve harder than anyone. We don't have a pall hanging over us anymore, and we can think about things in the future where we don't have to consider how badly Dad will suffer through that thing, or through the travel, or do we not get to go at all and he feels badly about it, because he never wanted to be a burden. He was a man of purpose. His purpose was up, and he's where he needs to be now. And we really, really believe that. We're crying sporadically all the time. I saw grapes yesterday and started crying because it made me think of him running by my bowl and grabbing grapes, you know, when he was, just before he was sick, even just when he was healthier. He was always goofy with, I don't know. He just did that kind of thing. And that's another thing, once the sickness is past, just as it just now has, I'm able to start seeing positive memories of him again. While when he was so sick and still living with us, I couldn't afford to see those things in my mind. They were too painful. So there are a lot of little points that are actually positive now that he's gone on, as we feel. But it's also very weird to think he's not on an errand somewhere or at an appointment or on a flight and is going to walk through the door in a few minutes from somewhere. But that's for me. That's the selfish for me. We're really just so glad he's free. Peace.